From the reading of our passage, it is clear that James points to the matter of the tongue as another test of living faith. Why doesn't he say the heart is the problem? Why is it the tongue? After all, the tongue only reacts to the heart. Clearly, the focus is on the guilty member rather than the heart issue. For example, in other parts of Scripture, we read about feet swift to shed blood, as if the feet were the culprits in a murder. We read about eyes of adultery and itching ears, as if the eyes and ears were guilty, when we know, of course, it is the inner person. The tongue is the living symbol of what is in the heart. Nothing is more telling of the heart than the tongue, and it is of great concern as we see in this passage. In fact, it is mentioned in every chapter of the book of James. Twice in chapter 1, verse 19 and 26, be slow to speak and bridle the tongue. In chapter 2, verse 12, speak as those who are to be judged. Chapter 4, verse 11, do not speak evil. Chapter 5, verse 12, do not swear, your yes be a yes and your no be a no. And a large portion, of course, in our chapter 3 deals with the tongue. In Psalm 64:3, the tongue is defined as an arrow, probably because an arrow kills at a distance, and the deadliness of the tongue is that it can kill without even being anywhere near the victim. The tongue is a deadly arrow. Nowhere is the union of faith and works more visible than in our speech. There is one quote that says, every one of us is carrying around a concealed weapon. All we have to do is open our mouths and it is unconcealed. In Genesis 3, we read one of the first expressions of sin. Adam says to God, the woman you gave me, blaming God for the sin. In Romans 3, when the Apostle Paul describes the wretchedness of man in a sinful condition, he begins with the tongue. Their throat is an open grave. They use their tongues to deceive. The venom of asps is under their lips. Their mouth is full of curses and bitterness. Romans 3:13-14. The focal point of our fallenness or depravity is the tongue. When Isaiah confesses to God his utter sinfulness in the midst of a vision of God's holiness, in Isaiah 6:5 he says, woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. Nothing more marked a man's sinfulness than his speech. Right words, then, would be the manifestation of a righteous life. We need to measure our speech to see if it is consistent with what we claim to be the reality of our faith. We will meditate from verse 1 starting tomorrow. Have a blessed weekend.